Hey, Kevin and Pam and Yvonne, thank you for joining the call. I wanted to talk about all this stuff that we're facing now. Obviously, it's a crazy time right now with all the public engagement that's happening online, and we're all struggling with, well, what does inclusive public engagement mean during this time? Are we too reliant on online? And I think the what we've all talked about, right, is how to engage those hard to reach audiences, disadvantaged populations, and those folks that aren't willing to go online or don't want to or whatever it may be. So let's talk about that a little bit. So Pam, you've worked with WSP for a long time now, and you've worked on a lot of projects and done a lot of public involvement, and you studied this issue as well. So can you what do you think some of the key challenges are to inclusive public engagement during this time of COVID-19?
Well, Daryl, we still have a digital divide, but that's not really so hard for us to address. To me, the bigger issue really is the crisis conditions that everyone is facing, especially those communities that are really hard hit by the virus, which is a lot of the minority communities. And Black workers in particular have suffered huge job losses, and many who are still working are frontline workers at high risk. So if people are worried about getting sick or paying their rent, it's going to be really hard to interest them in a transportation project.
I,
Right?
I,
That's
I
the
guess
problem.
that's been an issue that we've faced forever, right? And so focusing on that now is more important than ever. So Kevin, you've worked on some projects where you've dealt with reaching those hard to reach audiences in a variety of different levels, and you have a perspective of what some of our staff are doing across the country too. So talk about those things a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of like what Pam just spoke about. Like we're talking about engaging folks at a time where their communities may be incredibly hard hit by the virus that's happening right now. It's something that has changed the landscape altogether, but specifically, a lot of the communities that were hard to reach before are nearly impossible to reach right now. So one of the things that we've really focused on is working through organizational leaders, faith-based organizations, people who are in the community, who serve as a resource for these communities, to work with them as a conduit for engagement of some of these other folks as well. You know, we can't necessarily expect that people will be coming to online or virtual meetings if they're, trying to figure out how they're going to put food on the table, or if there are issues with connectivity to online resources. So we really just have to do our due diligence to think about what these people may have to be considering in their daily lives, and then also work with the organizations that are already in place in their communities to try to make sure that we get the best perspective we can. I think that someone who's done an incredible bit of work in this area has actually been in the state of California. And Yvonne, I know that you have worked hands-on on a couple of projects where you've put together different engagement strategies for getting a wide audience to the table. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Of course. So maybe I'll start with kind of the present with the California High-Speed Rail project. This is really a mega project where we are aiming to do engagement with the entire state of California, and really kind of with the COVID situation, kind of going back to the basics sometimes, going back to mailers, really just picking up the phone sometimes. That's kind of what we found is the low technology and kind of the least intrusive way to reach people during this really difficult time with all of the circumstances that both Kevin and Pam described. So one example is virtual office hours, being able to set preset appointments with folks during times that work for them, and being able to have that one-on-one engagement without taking up a lot of time and kind of going more to them than asking for them to come to our virtual meetings.
Well, and I think you all have told me this before, and I've heard it from other staff as well, is that while that personal touch might not be there like we're used to, right? That hi, how are you doing? Arm around someone, talking to them, but we might be getting more people than we've ever gotten before in our public meetings because we're making it accessible in all these forums, and we really kind of have an audience that's not going anywhere, right? They're home, so we can make phone calls, we can do it online, and they're already there. But can any of you speak to the numbers? Are we seeing better numbers? Are we seeing an increase? What is that looking like right now?
Sure, I can speak to that, Daryl, and maybe Kevin can add on too. But at least with some of our recent virtual open houses, we have been able to reach at least the same, if not more, engagement with more individuals. And also because we've been more focused on providing digital resources like websites, online portals, those we found have really been able to reach thousands of more individuals than we would have with just in-person meetings when there's only really a set time where we can engage.
Interesting.
Yeah. And another strategy that I just wanted to bring up as well is when we're talking about ways that we can engage folks that don't necessarily have access or regular access to the internet, we've seen a lot of success on projects throughout the US utilizing telephone town halls, where all folks need to be able to get a seat at the table to be engaged in a discussion about some of these projects that may affect people on a daily basis in their lives is a phone line. This is a service that calls out to residents in a specified area, and they're able to be on a call for about an hour long and hear from the project managers, hear from folks who are actually delivering these projects, get an update from them. It almost sounds like you're engaged in a podcast when you're on the line with one of these calls. And again, this is a very, it's a very good way to just make sure that folks, regardless of your access to the internet, have a seat at the table, have an ability to give input and to be part of a conversation.
Well, Pam, you've looked into a lot of different ways, tools, and tactics that different agencies and are reaching these hard to reach audiences. What are some of those out there right now? And I know we want to wrap this up soon, so give us some samples, Pam. Give us some ideas on what is being done out there that's creative.
Well, one thing that's been surprisingly effective is using social media, targeting ads to particular groups, particular zip codes that you've had trouble reaching. Most people are online these days. Most people are online on their phones. So we try to reaching them where they are. That's a place to go. Another thing is making sure that all our materials are out there online for those who can reach them at their convenience. I mean, they may want to participate on a Saturday. They may want to look at our stuff, take our survey, in the middle of the night. We ought to accommodate that, not make them come at a specific time, whether it's an online meeting or an in-person meeting.
Great, and I think there's some kind of tried and true, like old school, we would say, right? Mailers instead of just a postcard.
The door hanger on the door.
Door hanger, yeah. Maybe you add the map to the mailer. All these different things that we used to do that seem more relevant now.
Even public access TV is coming back.
That's right.
The
There's
800
a project,
number.
Wasn't there a project in Vermont where it was streamed through Zoom, and then the public access TV also streamed it live. That's pretty creative.
Giving people more than one way to get your information.
All right, I'm going to let you all go. Thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. A lot more to discuss on this, and I know we'll all be brainstorming more on it, but a good taste of what's happening and what we're doing and how we're thinking on it. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Daryl.